Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News at 6 starts now.
Vice President Pence is speaking with Local 4 about coronavirus, race issues, and his opinion on early voting.
We're learning more about the role younger people are playing in sparking new COVID hotspots. I'm Dr. Frank McGeorge. Coming up, what experts are urging everyone to do to help protect the most vulnerable.
And the defenders uncovering new information about the man charged in the murders of a woman and a child, his criminal history, and why he was recently released from prison.
But we begin with breaking news out of Eastpointe, where police are on the scene of a shooting. Neighbors say it started with an argument on the front lawn of a home that ended in at least 10 rounds being fired. The investigation is underway on Veronica near Kelly. At least one man has been taken to the hospital in critically grave condition. We're working to get more information, and we'll bring it to you when we get it.
Now to the new information coming to light in the execution-style killings of 3 people, including a woman and a 6-year-old boy.
Nicholas Bari was brought up on charges yesterday, but more is coming to light about his criminal history dating back more than a decade. Local 4 defender Sean Lay joins us with what he's learned. And Sean, this man was released from prison just a couple of months ago.
August 20th, as a matter of fact, after doing 7 years in prison. Tonight, we are digging into his criminal history, and there are clues about what we are seeing now. In fact, people are asking, should he have been released? Could this have been avoided? And the answer may just surprise you. In your hands, you've got his criminal history. Is that a roadmap leading towards this? Should he even have been out?
I don't think that anybody looking at his criminal history would be able to forecast that he was capable of the crimes that he's accused of and perhaps committed here.
Local 4 legal analyst Neil Rockine telling the Local 4 defenders tonight he says there are peculiar clues about the criminal history of Nicholas Bari, the West Bloomfield Township man charged with the execution-style killings of Isis Rimson, 6-year-old Tyrez Moore, and Moore's father, Tukoyo Moore. Bari was released from prison August 20th after serving 7 years for a charge of fleeing and eluding out of Orchard Lake. Judges sent him to prison, not probation, in the past for convictions for larceny and drugs. Rockine does not believe any judge went easy on him. You point out he's served a lot of time for all these different charges. What does that tell you?
It tells me that each time he went in front of a judge found that he was not, in the end, a suitable candidate to live in the community, for community supervision, to be on probation.
Even for fleeing and eluding?
Even for fleeing and eluding, the judge in that case sentenced him to prison.
The state prison system evaluated Bari to determine if he was a danger, but found that he should be released after 7 years on that fleeing conviction.
That shows someone who's sick and demented and really has forfeited their right to interact with the rest of us.
Back here live, what's going to be interesting is the file at the prison system where he was serving time. What did they find and why they did release him, and found that it was okay to release him on August 20th. Neil Rockine says he's been in front of all the judges this same guy has been in front of, defending others. He says all the judges never go lightly on anyone. The answer to the question if anyone could foresee this type of behavior in him may actually lie outside of the government, within his own family and friends. We're live tonight. Sean Lay, Local 4 Defenders.
Awful. Okay. Sean, thanks.
The Detroit Police Department has been trying to clean up what Chief Craig admits was a dirty narcotics unit through an operation called Clean Sweep. It's led to the firing of 1 officer, the retirement of a sergeant and 3 other officers, suspensions of 2 officers with pay, and the resignations of 3 more officers. Priya Mann joins us live with a closer look at this problem and how DPD is trying to solve it. Priya.
Yeah, and Chief Craig says there could be a lot more coming down the line, and he detailed details into this investigation. Take a look.
This probe has had a significant impact on rooting out corruption, but our work does continue.
After launching an independent investigation into DPD's narcotics division, Chief Craig says there were some troubling discoveries.
We know that some of the alleged fraud occurred after the start of our probe.
Investigators are looking into cases involving confidential narcotics informants.
We have uncovered certain vouchers that were submitted for payment, and those monies were not paid to the informant, suggesting alleged embezzlement by officers.
Chief Craig says this is the first time a police corruption probe of this magnitude and complexity was launched by DPD.
We have found over 30 blank vouchers pre-printed with a source's thumbprint. What we haven't been able to determine, whose thumbprint was it? Was it in fact an informant? Was it an officer's? We're not certain yet.
It's alleged several repeat offenders were allowed to walk without providing concrete evidence to investigators.
What this led to was a significant lack of criminal prosecutions for armed and repeated drug dealers, despite strong evidence and confessions or admissions.
And Chief Craig says it doesn't matter if you resigned or retired. If you were involved in any of these alleged criminal activities, you will be charged. Of course, we will continue to cover this story. Reporting live from DPD headquarters, I'm Priya Mann, Local 4.
Well, yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens down the line. All right, Priya, thanks.
Well, some political pundits have suggested Michigan is already out of play for the Trump campaign, but it sure doesn't seem that way with the president set to hold a rally in Muskegon Saturday and Vice President Mike Pence visiting Grand Rapids today. In a one-on-one interview, Larry Spruill asked the vice president about some of the issues important to Metro Detroiters.
Vice President Mike Pence talked for about an hour in front of 500 or so supporters. Now, he addressed several topics like health care and the coronavirus. I also got a chance to talk to him one-on-one about how important Michigan will be in this year's election.
We're going to re-elect President Donald Trump for 4 more years.
That was the message Vice President Mike Pence echoed Wednesday afternoon at a campaign rally in Grand Rapids. In front of a crowd of about 500, he reiterated how important this election is.
For the people of Michigan and for America, the stakes in this election has never been higher.
And then the coronavirus struck from China.
I also asked him about the coronavirus and racial tensions here in the country. He had this to say to Southeast Michigan voters.
Well, we've worked with your governor and with health officials across the state to make sure and expand testing, to make sure and surge testing, particularly in our minority communities in Detroit early on that were so impacted by the coronavirus. We passed criminal justice reform to correct some historic flaws that particularly impacted our minority and African American communities.
President Trump, in this first segment.
Finally, he addressed the national polls and former Vice President Biden being ahead.
Get out, take advantage of early voting if you can. It's already begun here in Michigan, and we encourage people to participate, encourage people to exercise their right to vote through an absentee ballot or come on Election Day.
And Vice President Pence urged voters to go ahead and take advantage of the early voting. The election is just weeks away. Then voters will decide on the next 4 years. Reporting in Grand Rapids, Larry Spruill, Local 4.
Okay, Larry, and many of us are getting bombarded with unwanted election calls, emails, and text messages. Tomorrow at 6:30 a.m., Help Me Hank shows you how they got your number and how to make them stop. And the Gary Peters-John James congressional race will be the focus of a special 1-hour-long flashpoint this Sunday. Tune in at 10 a.m. for an in-depth interview with both candidates. That's followed by Meet the Press at 11.
A congressman from Western Michigan says he's tested positive for COVID-19. U.S. Rep. Bill Huizenga says the positive test came before he was slated to attend the Mike Pence rally in Grand Rapids. The Republican lawmaker tweeted he's self-isolating and awaiting the results from a second test. Today's development has forced the cancellation of a debate against his Democratic opponent in the state's 2nd district. First Lady Melania Trump confirmed this afternoon her son Barron tested positive for COVID. She says Barron showed no symptoms and has since tested negative. Here in Michigan, the state is reporting 1,359 new cases, along with 13 additional deaths. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said today he plans to keep his country's borders with the U.S. closed until case counts drop here in the States. And he told a radio station the U.S. is, quote, not in a place where we would feel comfortable reopening those borders.
With a growing concern that a second wave is gaining steam in the U.S., the CDC is looking at the role young adults are now playing in this spread. New research suggests they may be the sparks for new virus hotspots. Our Dr. Frank McGeorge is here to explain. Doc?
Yeah, Kim, we've seen a clear trend of rising cases in younger adults, but those infections don't stay in the younger age groups. They spread to older family members and the surrounding community. As the number of COVID-19 cases climb in most states, the CDC says it's discovering a pattern. The percentage of positive coronavirus test results start going up among those under 25 about a month before the county is designated as a virus hotspot.
Just by looking at someone, you cannot tell if they're infected.
Dr. Deborah Birx from the White House Coronavirus Task Force says part of the problem is a large amount of asymptomatic spread in younger people.
When you start to look at these college data, that maybe up to 80% of individuals under 30 are asymptomatic, and we're still getting the data from all of the colleges.
CDC researchers say tracking positive test rates by age group could help public health officials identify future hotspots and target efforts more effectively. Dr. Birx says it's also important to identify those who are asymptomatic.
The way you find that is the way the universities are finding it. Regular testing. And if you wait till people have symptoms, you've waited too long because there's so much asymptomatic spread before that.
As temperatures get cooler, Birx urges everyone of all ages to keep their masks on and their guards up. Now, some public health departments are now reaching out to influencers in younger age groups in the hopes of spreading the message about the importance of masks, social distancing, and the risks associated with those gatherings.
Well, Frank, now that we're heading into the fall and winter months, the holiday season, how concerning would you say are these trends?
Well, Kim, it's a huge concern. We know some college students and young adults are going to be socializing for Halloween. We know they'll be heading home for Thanksgiving and Christmas. Frankly, the numbers are heading in the wrong direction, and we all need to buckle down again and do our part to stop it.
That's
Back
right.
to you.
Yep. Okay. Dr. McGeorge, thank you.
A building in South Lyons senior community catches fire overnight. This was in the 25,000 block of Adams Court near 11 Mile and North Lafayette Street. Most of the victims were treated on scene, but one couple was found unconscious and taken to the hospital. We don't know their condition at this time. Everyone, though, has been forced from their homes because of this fire. Investigators believe it was accidental and may have been sparked by a tablet left charging in the basement.
The Michigan Poison Center issues a warning about what's being called purple heroin. Purple heroin has been linked to several overdose cases in the Upper Peninsula and one overdose-related death in Van Buren County. The Michigan State Police Laboratory has identified several components of this product, including fentanyl and brorphine, among others. Brorphine is a new synthetic opioid. At this time, it's not known if purple heroin is colored before or after its arrival in Michigan. The significance of the color, though, is unknown.
Still to come, if you like consistency, boy, does Ben Bailey have a forecast for you. Right, Ben?
Easy to remember, guys, but tonight, temperatures kind of taking a roundabout path. We'll look at that. Few showers Thursday, but the coldest air of the season coming this weekend. We'll look at the chilly numbers next.
A book filled with 100 Detroiters that comes to life with an app on your phone. I'll explain why a British artist wanted to come here to Detroit to do this project.